Well, this fall, Minnesota public schools will reportedly debut these new transgender dolls for children as young as 4 years old.
America, a 4-year-old in Minnesota can't tie their own shoes. This fall, he's getting handed a doll named Rory with removable parts funded by your tax dollars, built by a medical school that apparently ran out of actual diseases to cure. That same state is run by a governor famous for tampons in boys' bathrooms, and 3 states away, a different school just got caught building an entire secret filing system so parents can't even find out this stuff was happening in the first place.
The U.S. Department of Education says 2 Anne Arundel County parents complained that the school system helped their daughter present as male at school.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. The University of Minnesota medical school professors spent 5 years on college campuses quietly building anatomically correct dolls with easily swapping, genitalia, gender neutral names, no parents' votes, no permission slips. It's called, this name is wild, My Gender Dolls, you guys. They're heading into public school classrooms for kids age 4 through 12 this fall. The same week over in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, 2 parents found out their own daughter was being socially transitioned at school when the teacher accidentally called her he in an email. When the parents went to school to ask for the records, the school said no. They said flat out no. Federal law says they have to hand it over, and the school didn't. Now, you guys, I live in a big city in Nevada, and I have neighbors with actual kids. Not a single one of them ever asked me to hand their 4-year-old a doll with removable parts before deciding if he can safely cross the street by himself. I don't need a medical degree to know that that's absolutely insane. I just need an actual pulse and a functioning sense of shame, which coincidentally seems to be the one thing that's missing from this entire story. And here, my friends, is where it gets specific, and I want you to actually sit on this. Moms for America president Kimberly Fletcher pointed out something so obvious it's almost funny in the absolute worst way. The news segments covering these dolls had a blur of genitalia on the television. You can't show it to adults watching the news on a cable news network, but it's totally fine to hand it to a 4-year-old and call it curriculum.
You have to have big X's covering those genitalias, but they're going to be shoving it in our children's schools at 4 years old.
These same children are learning to tie their shoes and to share crayons and paper. That's actual developmental stages of a child. Sharing crayons, and somebody with a medical degree decided all of a sudden that the next logical step was gender identity counseling with a doll kit. Now, based on my research, there is an honest complication because I got to give credit where it actually exists. Not every single teacher doing this is some mastermind villain. Plenty of them are just following a curriculum handed down from them from people way above their pay grade. They're just doing their job. And some of them probably feel very, very uncomfortable to do it. And if they don't do it, they're going to get fired. The rot isn't just at the classroom level. It goes upstream at a professor and administrators writing the actual crappy material. Because look what happens, you guys, once the paperwork gets written in Maryland, once that pronoun slip happens, Linda McMahon says the school just didn't get awkward about it. They built an actual separate file folder system for this crap.
I mean, this is really outrageous. And to hide it from parents and actually create separate file folders so that when parents ask to see their children's records, that is being kept from them. And it's being done on purpose.
Done on purpose, not lost paperwork, not a busy front office, if you would, a system built specifically so the answer to your question is always, we don't have the file. We don't know where the file's at. That, my friends, is not a mistake. That is a design decision that somebody sat in a meeting and actually freaking approved. And you guys, it's not just happening in Maryland. Linda McMahon stated 3 states in one breath: Maryland, Michigan, and Vermont, and confirmed something that should make every single parent's blood boil.
So even when parents opt out and see these surveys with sexually explicit questions, drug use, alcohol use, for 7th graders.
7th graders, explicit sexual content, drug and alcohol questions given to your kids after their parents specifically. They specifically said no. That's not an accident either. That is the same design decision, just wearing a different outfit. or a different genitalia. Here's how the whole machine actually works. First, somebody with a title, a professor, an administrator, a curriculum coordinator, decides that gender identity is something that a 4-year-old, you guys, needs coaching on. Then the school builds the material and slides and slips it into classroom time without a permission slip. Because if they provide a permission slip, that means that the parents, they actually get to say no. Then when a parent does find out and asks questions about the situation, the school doesn't apologize. It builds a filing cabinet specifically designed to give that parent absolutely nothing.
And so the parent goes to the school and says, wants to find out about the matter, and the school refused to turn over the child's records or even provide the parent with any more information about the situation.
Federal law has a name for this exact crime. It's called FERPA, the Family Educational Right and Privacy Act, on the books since 1974. You get to see your own kid's file. That is it. That is the whole rule. A school built an entire secret bureaucracy just to dodge the law that's older than most of the teachers actually enforcing it.
And that is against federal law. And so we are investigating that through our, Students' Privacy Policy Office and working in conjunction with the Department of Justice, because this could be a civil suit, as well as this school could risk losing federal funding.
Now, you guys, the DOJ, the Department of Education, are both officially involved in writing.
Anne Arundel, Maryland, we found that transgender activities were in place and that parents not only were not informed, but it was being hidden from parents. So I can tell you that our investigation, we've turned it over to DOJ. They have likelihood of facing losing federal funding or a lawsuit or both. Also in Ann Arbor, Michigan, same thing. We're looking at information being withheld from parents.
And here, my friends, what it actually costs you. Every single district doing this runs on your property tax check and your federal funding check on top of it. That is 2 paychecks going to an institution that's now spending part of its budget building filing systems specifically engineered to keep you in the dark about your own kid. And it's not just gender identity at this point. It is the whole muscle of override the parent and publish it anyways.
Daughter is a student at Spring Hill High School. We recently received our school yearbook, and I was excited to see it because I knew there would be an article in it about my daughter. As I started looking through the book, I noticed that all of the students were identified using they, them pronouns, which struck me as odd that it was all. Then I got to the article about my daughter, and I saw that she was also being referred to by they, them. After speaking to my daughter, I found out that the article was originally written with her correct she, her pronouns, but the author did tell her that the article would be edited and her pronouns would be switched to they, them. When she heard this, she went to the yearbook advisor and specifically requested that the pronouns that reflect her biology, her she, her pronouns, remain in the article. She was met with doubt, so trying to be accommodating, my daughter offered that they could just use her name and leave out pronouns. Well, you can see the results. The article was edited and her pronouns were switched to they, them. They, them pronouns are not default pronouns. They are used by people who identify as non-binary. My daughter was called they, or some form of that word, about 21 times in the yearbook.
21 times in a book her own family paid for to actually have printed after she personally walked into that office and asked in writing to be called by her actual name. Somebody looked at that request and decided that their agenda mattered more than a 16-year-old girl's own voice in her own body. At this point, homeschool isn't a nuclear option anymore. It's a basic due diligence, the same way that you check on a contractor's license before letting them near your foundation. America, they call it inclusion. What it actually is a professor with a doctorate deciding that a 4-year-old needs a doll with a detachable part before she can finish learning how to share a crown. You can't give your kid a Tylenol at school without a signature, but apparently you can hand him gender counseling and a filing cabinet built specifically to keep his own mother out of the loop. The dolls have an off switch. The parents never got one. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.